Good evening and welcome to your City Council meeting. Today is Tuesday, March 2nd, 2021, and it is 6 p.m. In an effort to minimize the spread of COVID-19, Governor Newsom issued an executive order that temporarily suspends requirements of the Brown Act. Given this executive order, the Laguna Niguel City Council chambers are closed to the public until further notice. Members of the public are strongly encouraged to observe the City Council meeting live, online via YouTube live streaming that can be accessed on the city website. Members of the public may submit comments on any agenda item or any item not on the agenda by email to the city clerk at egomez@cityoflagunaniguel.org. All comments received prior to the deadline will be read into the record up to the time limit of 3 minutes. Any portion of the comment not read aloud due to time restrictions will still be included in the written record. The City of Laguna Niguel thanks you in advance for taking all precautions to prevent the spread of COVID-19. Madam City Clerk, roll call, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilmember Jennings.
Here.
Councilmember Rains.
Here.
Councilmember Sharma.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Genoway.
Present.
And Mayor Minigar.
Present.
Thank you. We have a quorum.
Thank you very much. This is the public communications portion of the agenda for closed session only. Madam City Clerk, do we have any comments?
No public comments today, Mayor.
Very well. Public communications for the closed session is now closed. At this juncture, I would like to have our City Attorney Enos read us into closed session, please.
Thank you, Mayor Minigar. We have an item of closed session. It's entitled Conference with Legal Counsel, Anticipated Litigation, Potential Initiation of Litigation Pursuant to Paragraph 4 of Subdivision D of Government Code Section 54956.9. We do have one correction. Instead of one potential case, it is two potential cases. Thank you. That concludes my announcement.
That is correct. We will now recess to closed session. All right, City Attorney Enos, is there any reportable action from the closed session, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There is no reportable action this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now take a brief, actually, we don't need to take a brief recess. Good evening. I would like to call our regular city council meeting back to order at 7:02 p.m. At this time, I would like to ask Councilmember Jennings to provide the invocation, please.
Authorized. Father, we come before you tonight grateful for the many blessings you have given us, and mindful, more than ever, how desperately your peace and grace are needed in our world. We ask that you use and bless our efforts on behalf and give us the wisdom and guidance to make decisions that honor your name and provide the greatest comfort, protection, and joy to those we represent. In your name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Councilmember Jennings. I would like to ask Councilmember Richie Sharma to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Everybody place their right hand over their heart. Service members and military may salute. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Our next item is public communications. Please be aware that the time limit will be 3 minutes for each public item. Comment. City Clerk Gomez, do we have any public comments?
No, Mayor, no public comments.
Thank you. Public communications is now closed. We will now move on to our consent calendar items 1 through 6. Are there any items that my colleagues would need to pull for comments and discussions?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to pull number 5, please.
That's the same one.
Number 5, pulled by Councilmember Sharma. All right. Can I have a motion to approve the remainder of the calendar
I'll
items?
make a motion.
Second.
Okay, it was moved by Councilmember Rains and it was seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Elaine Genoway. Can I have all in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
It passes unanimously. Now we get to item number 5. Councilmember Sharma, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. A couple general questions here. We referenced page 2 of the analysis. There were 4 bids that came in on this, and there's quite a significant price differential. One being about 55%, another one being about 64%, and from top to bottom, about a 70% price differential on the bids that came in. Seems a pretty significant swing. So I had some initial questions on that delta. And then secondly, I wanted to address the 20% contingency that was built in to this. And then the third item that I wanted to address was maybe some of the math that went behind the initial base bid that came in, the recommended amount from the city staff, and then adding on top of the overage, that would be a third layer of cost that would be added on to that base bid. So maybe, I don't know, do we pass it then to Public Works? And
So Public Works Director Scott
Yes.
will be happy to respond.
Yes, thank you, Councilmember Sharma. The landscape contract was put out for an RFP at the end of 2020, and it's focused specifically on just schools joint use, which there's 5 facilities in the city where we have agreements with the school district to maintain sports fields so that programming can take place from the city at the sports fields. We did receive 4 responses from some fairly well-known landscape contractors. The low bid was from Real Green, who is actually the contractor that has been performing this service for the past several years. And it is common that when a contractor is familiar with the work and the work effort and working with the city, that they're able to fine tune and sharpen their pencils and come in with a lower amount than some of the other vendors. And so I suspect that had a lot to do with the difference in the bids. It's not uncommon for Public Works to see wide swings of this nature in our bidding environment.
And then the second question was the difference between the base bid that was proposed, the recommended approved amount from the city.
So yes, we develop a base bid so that across the different vendors, we're able to have a basis of comparison for who is the lowest to the highest. And so that's the base bid amount that you see in the staff report. It covers the maintenance that's needed for the fields as they exist today. They're in partial use. They're not completely shut down, but they're also not fully programmed either. So we went through the process to identify how we can maintain those fields at the appropriate level for the types of use they're having, and that's what you see reflected in the base bid. Anticipating that new programming is going to come back on board in 2021, as things open back up, we built some additional services into the bid document that allows us to add when more programming comes back online throughout the year. So when there's more events on the fields over the weekends, they often need to come out in extra time and do some cleaning and repairs to the field itself. So the difference between the base bid and the recommended amount gives us that flexibility to add back in the needed services.
So then the base bid that was proposed by Real Green in this particular circumstance accommodates less usage due to the current shutdown provisions.
Absolutely. So in 2020, we went through the process of dissecting the kinds of services that we're performing in all of these fields because of how different the use became, how quickly it was reduced. And so we came up with what was most appropriate for the current time that we're in and the restrictions that are in place, but then gave us some flexibility to move forward and add things back as more and more use became programmed.
Thank you. And then the third question was the 20% expected overage.
So the 20% is a contingency. It's reserved for unforeseen circumstances that might arise. It's a standard in all of our maintenance service agreements. We add 10% to our construction CIP projects, and then in maintenance, we add 20%. A situation where we might use a contingency for an unforeseen condition is we had a fungus infection in the grass a number of years ago. It became very pervasive and very difficult to treat. So a bunch of the grass died off, and we needed to use that contingency to get replaced very quickly and get the ball field back up in use. So it would only be under those very extraordinary circumstances that staff would authorize use of that contingency.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Councilmember Rains, the floor is yours.
Thank you. You answered my question. I was questioning the difference between the bids and how it could be so much less and if we were getting the same level of service, but you answered that question. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Any other comments? Mayor Pro Tem Elaine Genoway?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I had my questions answered earlier today by staff, but I would just like, and one of my questions was, since there is such a difference, have you been happy with the service from Real Green, the recommended contract? Have you been happy, and are they providing acceptable service to the city?
They are, and they also are servicing a few other contracts through Public Works to maintain a number of neighborhood parks around the city. And I think combining those together, some of the economies of scale that you're seeing in their bid price, it's reflected in that because they already have a presence here. They already have supervision and equipment nearby. So I think that's a part of the reason why we're seeing the big difference.
Thank you.
Very good. Can I have a motion to approve item number 5, which is maintenance services agreement for schools, joint use sports fields and facilities landscape maintenance with Real Green Inc.?
I'll make a motion
I'll
to
second.
approve.
Okay, the motion was made by Councilmember Sharma and it was seconded by Councilmember Sandy Rains. All in favor say aye.
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 The motion is approved unanimously. Okay, that concludes our consent calendar. We will now move on to discussion item number 1, and that is strategic plan update, which is approval of 2021 strategic plan priorities, and City Manager Tammy Letourneau.
Thank you so much. Good evening, Mayor and members of the City Council. As you know, the first strategic plan was adopted by the council in November of 2019. And throughout the last year, the city has used the strategic plan to guide policy decisions, fiscal, and human resources. The first year of the strategic plan implementation included a significant number of accomplishments, which I presented to the council in November of last year. We have a great deal to be proud of, and as we look to the future, at the 1-year mark is the right time to update the existing strategies and establish new strategies to meet the goals established by the City Council. Attachment A in your staff report is the updated plan. By brief background, the elements of a strategic plan include a mission statement, which is the framework and direction for the city, a vision statement that describes the future, values that describe how the members of the City Council and staff conduct themselves, goals, which is a goal is a desired result of the city, and strategies, which are the specific projects the city will complete to achieve each goal. And the implementation action plans, which are the detailed planning tool that shows each strategy, key task, and financial resources, human resources, and costs and timeline for each one. Just as a reminder, our mission statement is the City of Laguna Niguel is committed to providing a vibrant quality of life for all residents, businesses, and visitors in a safe, beautiful, and involved community. Our vision is that the City of Laguna Niguel is dedicated to preserving a safe, flourishing, and community-oriented environment through thoughtful engagement, financial responsibility, and a commitment to innovation. And our values are integrity, excellence, innovation, security, quality, and service. The goals have remained the same in this update, and they are: goal number 1 is public safety. Goal number 2 is fiscal sustainability. Goal number 3 is open space and environmental preservation. Goal number 4 is infrastructure and technology. Goal number 5 is economic and community development. And goal number 6 is communication and community outreach. I won't read each strategy that's in part of the plan. I just want to highlight a few this evening for purposes of the presentation for the community. So for example, in goal number 1 under public safety, we have enhancing neighborhood watch programs, increasing technology surveillance and holding community workshops, enhancing public safety messages community-wide. For fiscal sustainability, continuing with the fee analysis and exploring regional partnerships to increase cost savings. Under the goal of open space and environmental preservation, developing an open space inventory, developing a 10-year trails and open space maintenance plan, enhancing our open space education. Under infrastructure and technology, completing an energy efficiency evaluation, a technology study, and implementing smart city solutions. In economic and community development, redevelopment of former courthouse site, updating our housing element, federal building area land use study, design guideline updates, and a general plan update. Our trails master plan update, a zoning update, and continuing our weed abatement program, as well as our water quality inspection program. And new to this strategic plan update and shown in a different way, hard to see on the PowerPoint, but it's in your strategic plan tonight. This is an updated chart which shows our economic and community development strategies and every step of the general plan update process and the timeline associated with each step. And I think this is a very important tool. All these things were part of goal 5 previously, but now we're showing it in a different way. So you can really get a good gauge of every step in every order of the general plan update process and the timeline associated with each very specifically.
And goal 6, communication and community outreach, which is to enhance public education through social media, our HOA outreach and increasing communication there, and developing multiple communication strategies for extensive community outreach for all city programs and services. And very specifically for 2021, we have a detailed list of all the projects, significant projects by department. And I'll just highlight a few. For administration, finance, and city clerk's office, continuing to manage the impacts of COVID-19 for the residents and the businesses, continuing to enhance community outreach for all of our programs and services, continuing to build our general fund reserves, implementation of state mandated recycling and trash programs and policies, enhancing our records management program, and continuing to advocate for local control with new legislation. For public safety, again, enhancing our neighborhood watch programs, very important this year, enhancing our relationship with the youth in the community, technology surveillance. For fire, continuing to focus on maintaining our defensible fire areas, continuing with community fire safety education, and continue conducting smoke alarm replacement events. For community development, we have code updates, minor zoning code revision, accessory dwelling unit ordinance, our Laguna Niguel general plan housing element update, gateway specific plan review, just to name a few. For public works, completing zones 1 and 2 of the residential slurry seal program, restroom renovations at Sea Country, Niguel Road to Marina Hills Drive and to Highlands Avenue Drive resurfacing program, completing a park needs study, and the EV charging stations project. Regarding our trails, updating our trails map, which you should hear about later this week. The Botanical Preserve, enhancing the signage, increasing public education of the preserve, development and implementation of creative programming for residents of all ages, and preparing new programs and classes for when our facilities reopen. So there's a very long list detailed in your plan that we're very proud of and we're committed to. And that concludes the presentation, and I'll be happy to answer any questions. Our recommendation is that you approve the update and the specific goals for 2021.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Let me start with Councilmember Kelly Jennings.
Thank you. And this is fantastic. This chart is really amazing. I love having the visual, the timeline. We can see what's happening. I know each of these policies need to be thoughtful and intentional in how we do it. And there's a lot of intricacies behind each one. And one kind of leads to the other. So I appreciate that we have this layout because it makes it easier for us to wrap our heads around it. So thank you for your time and effort in putting it together. And I wholeheartedly agree with this. And our strategic plan meeting was fantastic. And it was great to work with everyone to get our ideas out there and update what we've done and accomplish all the things that were accomplished last year is still remarkable even after COVID. So just excellent job. Thank you.
Any other comments? Councilmember Sharma?
Yeah, I won't delay. There were lots of firsts with this. I certainly, it was my first attempt at going through this as well. We had a lot of new team members that joined us during the strategic plan workshop. It was the first at the community center, which was very enjoyable to partake in. No team can be successful without communication and vision. And I think we were very accomplished at accommodating both of those and accomplishing those as well. I want to thank the city staff and especially our city manager, Tammy Lucerno, for her guidance and her professionalism in putting this together and guiding us through the process. It provides a continuum not only for this leadership team, but for new leadership teams in the future and a common thread of conversation for all of us so we can serve our community better. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Elaine Genoway.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. When we developed the strategic plan, it's 2 years ago now, it was a fantastic idea. Our city manager led us through the steps to be able to create this. In fact, That was one of the reasons why she was high on my list when I hired her, is because this is a forte of hers. And I've always been very happy and thrilled with the strategic plan because it does lay out the work that we're going to be doing now and in the future. But I'll tell you, adding this timeline makes it even better. So there's a timeline. I don't think our viewing public can see it, but there's this spreadsheet with the timeline that helps us get to our general plan update. And this is something, it's a very big job. I'll just put it that way. But this breaks it down into the steps so we can actually see what needs to be done when. And it makes it in pieces that we can bite off and achieve and have accomplished something and show our residents the steps that we are taking to do our general plan update instead of it being this nebulous term out there. So thank you for adding this timeline to it. I really think it helps to clarify what's in the strategic plan. So I do appreciate that. And it was a terrific workshop. Even though we've had the strategic plan in place for 2 years now, more great ideas came out. So I appreciate everyone who contributed and discussed, and look forward to approving the updates. Thank you.
Councilmember Sandy Rains.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you to all our staff who participated in this, and especially to our city manager, Tammy Letourneau. This has been an incredible journey that we've been on to develop this strategic plan, and it is nice to see the timeline chart. And I know we discussed before that this is a guide, and that's why we do these reviews on a annual basis, because it's a guide and we can change them, and we can push things out if we have to, or we can make things happen earlier if we see it pertinent to our community. So it's nice to have that guideline and to know that the history of our city of having the fiscal responsibility that we've had in the past, that moving forward as we look at something that's more concrete, that gives us a focus, it also helps us to stay on track with our biggest goal, which is to stay fiscally sound. And we've done an incredible job with that in the past year under the circumstances. So I appreciate the opportunity to participate in this and the opportunity for us to all work together to develop a future for our community. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you very much. I have just two comments. The first one is I reviewed the 11 by 17 fold out in reference to the goals, the plans, and general plan. I just have one request from the staff, that I noticed that when I look at the 15 elements, which is always incorporated in any city's general plan in America, why can't we shorten that time frame? I noticed that for our city is almost 5.5 years. Then I reviewed the general plans, the execution of their plans for a lot of progressive cities in California, Northern, Central, and Southern California, with respect to being socioeconomically and demographically compatible with our city. And then I asked myself this question, that how can we reduce that 5.5 years to maybe 4 years, or, somewhere in that range, based on other cities that have the same kind of settings in Riverside County, in North Los Angeles County, in other counties in California that they happen to be vibrant, like Orange County. So what can we do to shorten that? Because we have a lot of pivotal projects that they are not going to be done. We all know that next year and maybe 2 years from now, they're going to be, or 3 years maximum, they're going to be fully developed. So I don't know if I should ask our city manager or community development director.
Let me start, and then I'll turn it over to Jonathan. But we do have some pivotal projects that we're in the middle of a planning process for, that it's really important that as we go forward with the general plan update, that we take those projects into account. And in one of them, being the ziggurat, we are in the middle of a federal process that we cannot control. So it's important that when this general plan is done, that all of that is incorporated within it. Otherwise, a big piece of our plan will be missing. So we're at a little bit of a mercy of these other processes, which is one of the reasons for taking time. But I'll let Jonathan continue and provide additional details.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. To your question, Mayor Minigar, the timeline that's laid out, and I think Tammy was touching on this, it shows not only the progression of the general plan, it also shows a number of other items in the strategic plan. One of note that I will point to, and which City Manager Letourneau mentioned, is the federal building area specific plan. There's a very good chance that we are going to end up with this timeline processing a general plan update concurrently with the most significant specific plan that this city will have seen. The timing to make sure that we get this right, the resources, this is a significant undertaking. If you look at the way the general plan update is laid out, it actually covers 4 fiscal years. So this is a 4-year process from start to finish, which I think you had mentioned was a target that you would be looking to achieve. So this does show 4. Certainly we're hoping to come in ahead of schedule and under on our budget, but this we feel is achievable. This will allow the time to do all of the groundwork that we need to do. We, rather than launching into, I think, a visioning session without having the studies in place to truth test what we're visioning for, I think that will help establish realistic expectations for the community. And I think that is a key component to a general plan as well, that we can bring the public along, that this can be an education process, not just a visioning process. And that's why we have laid it out as we have. We've vetted this with a number of major consulting firms who specialize on preparation of major planning initiatives such as general plan updates and also CEQA documents related to those updates. And they have concurred with our conclusions here. So we feel pretty confident that we're going to be able to deliver a really good document for the city, along with a number of other items that are happening concurrently according to this timeline.
And you realize that we never had any general plan update since I recall 10 years serving in the Planning Commission with you and,
Yes, we're making up for 30 years of lost time. So it's going to be a heavy lift. That's right.
That's why I'm anxious, because we've never updated the general plan as a city, in California. And every 10 years, the statute is that, every city should update its general plan. So I just wanted to make sure that, not only we're going to do it right, but we're going to do it in a fashion that it would be comprehensive, that we don't have any missing elements there, because as a city, we reached out to the build out, scenario, that we don't have too much of soft lands left for vacant parcels to be developed. So because of that, then it's going to be just for the future and maybe minor fine tuning, for some of the elements, obviously every 6 years for the housing element, on and on and on, that we do the amendments.
Yeah, yes, I think it's reasonable to assume that once what is shown on this sheet is completed, there will not be any further significant planning initiatives for a very long time in Laguna Niguel.
Your points are well taken. And my second question or point is in reference to the public works initiatives, that I wanted to make sure that we also include, smart cities initiatives. That's very critical. America's changing, technology is changing. By the year 2030, we are going to see everything, a lot of vehicles they're not going to manufacture any kind of, typical vehicles in California. It's going to be against the law by the year 2030. So we need to be ahead of that, curve, so that, we have specific infrastructure in place that once we reach to that, that target year, none of us would be here, but people would be here. The next generation is going to be here, that we lay the proper foundation at the city, on the dais, unless you want to.
Oh, I thought you meant here and that.
No,
I thought you meant on the planet Earth.
No.
My wife was going to be very disappointed when I got home.
At these chambers. So having said that, I want to make sure for the future generation, the infrastructure would be there. If it's the application of fiber optics, when we went over these, during the workshops, that like other cities, we have all those measures in place.
Yes, and they're included in the strategic plan process. And we will continue to work on additional projects to achieve those goals.
Including the TMC and TOC for the city hall, correct? Director
Mayor Miniger,
Scott?
absolutely. So as I bring forward our proposed 21-22 CIP, I will be highlighting for the council a number of items that will fall into that under that umbrella of smart cities and the interest that you have in investing in technology. I think you will find quite a few pieces of the projects will fit the bill for that request.
Very good. Thank you very much. Any other comments, Councilmember Rains?
I just want to reiterate what Mayor Minigar said about the timing on the plan. I realize that there's a lot of detail that goes into it, but when we look at in 10 years, we're not going to have vehicles that are being, produced that are gas run. Then if we take 5 years to do a general plan, we don't really have a lot of time to get to that point, right? To be ready for it. So I really want to encourage our staff to be looking at ways to move forward on this a little bit more speedily, as Mayor Minigar said, so that we can actually start planning and making the right decisions moving forward. So that's it.
Any other comments? Very good. Can I have a motion to approve staff's recommendation?
I move to approve.
A second.
It was moved by Mayor Pro Tem Elaine Genoway and it was seconded by Councilmember Kelly Jennings. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The motion carries unanimously. Thank you. And that concludes our discussion items. So we will now move on to council member comments. I start with Councilmember Sharma.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So we attended, as we just stated, the strategic plan workshop. Thoroughly enjoyed that engagement with my fellow colleagues here. And we also had the OC Vector Control meeting this last month. During the course of the meeting, we had recognition of outgoing board members from the last year, a year in review, and then also approved the committee assignments for the coming year. Just as a side reminder, we have some rains coming in. If you haven't paid attention to standing water at your properties or standing water that will be accumulating, please do so. It helps keep down mosquito infestations. I'd like to give an acknowledgement to Sergeant Paul Rowe on his retirement, 25 years with Orange County Sheriff and 9 years with Laguna Niguel. Thank you for your service. Graduation, congratulations to our newest probationary firefighters of the Academy 51. Thank you for your service as well. And remember, if you have blessings in your life, which we all do, please pass them forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Elaine Genoway.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, we've been doing a lot of talking right now about some long-term planning. And in keeping with the legislative policy of this council, I've requested that we send a letter of support on SB 75 by Senator Bates, which is to establish Southern California Fentanyl Task Force. And Senator Bates has worked on this for years, on the impact that fentanyl use has on our community and on our residents. And it is a public safety issue, and it is a family issue and an individual issue. So she has worked tirelessly on this, and for a number of years with different proposed legislation. And as I thought about this, I reflected on the fact that she never let how long an issue takes to achieve to deter her. You know, there's a desired outcome, and you may need to work some time towards that desired outcome. But that didn't deter her. And this was true also in the 1980s when our community was fought the airport, and she and Citizens for Cityhood led Laguna Niguel to becoming the 29th city in Orange County. And this was a several-year process that our residents are now benefiting from. And there are many things, then I kept thinking, I kept going down the road. So there are many things that we as a city and our residents have benefited from that may have started as an idea of one person or an idea of a council and took several years for it to come to fruition. And it's only can come to fruition to benefit the residents if it's supported by the sitting council, and then the future councils who let it carry forward, and that these ideas become a reality for Laguna Niguel. And some of them were, after we became a city, that was great. And then, well, what about City Hall? How do we build a city hall? So someone had to have that idea. And we may not remember which council member it was, but we do know that the councils subsequent to that idea coming forward supported it and saved the money. And we built a city hall, which we're sitting in right now. And, actually this year is the 10th anniversary of being in this city hall. Still looks like a brand new building. So great job, Public Works. And that's how these things happen. And then after that, Councilmember Lindholm, she had the idea for, we needed to refurbish the needs, Crown Valley Park, to meet the needs of our community. I remember, my daughter, who is now 34, had her 5th birthday party at Crown Valley Park. And at that time, 29 years ago, it was a clunky old building. But it took someone coming forward and subsequent councils supporting that. And it took Councilmember Lindholm many years for us to achieve the new Crown Valley Community Center. In fact, I think the first RFP that was issued for it was about 2014. And now we just had the soft opening of that building. So it just takes long-term planning for us to accomplish these things for our residents. So the 30th anniversary of cityhood, that was the appropriate time for our city to develop a strategic plan. And Councilmember John Mark Jennings brought this idea forward. And this is a living document that now guides the work and the future work of our city. And tonight we just approved the update to the strategic plan. The residents of our city, they deserve to have the beneficial actions of their city be well thought out, planned, and carried forward from council to council. So I'm particularly excited about an item that we passed tonight in tonight's warrant register. We approved it in the warrant register, and that was a $500,000 deposit to our 115 pension trust. And this is the work of several city councils. And I think the last time we talked about this, Mayor, you had mentioned that we started this discussion 6 years ago to get to this 115 pension trust for our city. So the city councils along the way didn't let the time necessary to do the work correctly deter us. We needed to do it right. We needed to do it right for our city and for our employees. And I remember in 2018, we were pretty close, but then there were some changes in the regulations impacting the options that we had available. So we took the time necessary to do what is right for our city. So I am celebrating all of the city councils that have come before us, all the ones that will come after us, and their vision for some long-term plan, and that it doesn't matter who gets the credit, but that we work together as a council and work for the benefit of all of our residents in our city. And that's why Laguna Niguel is so remarkable. And that's the end of my comments, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Sandy Rains.
I feel so inspired now. One of the things that I attended last week was our League of California Cities Division meeting, and there was an update on the California budget and the COVID relief federal bill. It was interesting that there was many comments that were made on there discussing a surplus in our state, and yet when I questioned why do we have a surplus, the answers were our budget structure, our state sales tax, capital gains tax, and the stock market. So 3 of those 4 items are changeable very easily, right? Especially if we have another crisis. And our budget structure is quite interesting because when we do a budget and we balance it, but we're paying off debt and we don't count the full amount of debt, it really doesn't offset the full liabilities that our state has. So I know many people might be reading that we have a surplus, but if you really dig a little bit deeper, you'll notice we don't really have a surplus. So for that reason, I think it's important that we as a city continue to stay fiscally strong as we have. and that we also keep our local control here in our city, because there are some bills coming up on housing that are trying to take away our local control. And this is just an example of how our state policies don't align with our values that we have here in the city. So I just wanted to point that out, because I thought it was really interesting that they were trying to talk about a surplus when we really can't identify and say that that's true. Forbes magazine did an interesting article just recently about it as well. So if you're interested, you can look it up. Just a few things that I wanted to also talk. One of the other things was a couple weeks ago, I was unanimously appointed by the Orange County Board of Supervisors to the Housing and Community Development Commission. And it basically is looking at ways to make sure that our residents in Orange County are being housed, and that we're taking care of permanent supportive housing, as well as making sure that the people who are qualified for housing choice vouchers that is federally funded are receiving them. We currently have a waiting list of over 2,000 people. So we're still not through that, and we still need to increase our job market here in the area. I wanted to take this time to thank our staff, especially our city manager, Tammy Letourneau, and deputy city manager, Justin Martin. They've done an incredible job with the vaccination administration part on helping. They hosted an event at our Sea Country Center just recently to make sure that many seniors who were waiting for vaccines, I had several reach out to me specifically, and they made sure that they got their vaccines, and their family members were so just pleased and just felt so happy. Some of the family members lived out of the area, so when they reached out and they knew that their parents were able to get their vaccines and get them done, they were so grateful. So I just want to say thank you, because you guys, I know you're working hard and overtime, and I really appreciate your volunteer time and doing what needs to be done to take care of our senior population here. And I want to finish with, this month is Women's History Month, and we all have women that have inspired us in our lives, and they don't have to be somebody who's famous. You know, so many times we see all the famous women that are being celebrated, but we have a resident right here in Laguna Niguel. Her name's Donna Riddell, and many, many years ago, she wanted a Whole Foods in Laguna Niguel. And she did her little research and wrote her letters and got active. And we have a great Whole Foods shopping center in Laguna Niguel, but it was her desire to do something for our community, for your community, that caused that. So I want to celebrate just one of our local residents for being an activist and making something wonderful happen for our community. And also just say, if you have special women in your life, then remember to celebrate them this month, because every single woman that works hard, whether it's a mom at home or an executive at the CEO level, they're all valuable, and we appreciate them all. Thank you.
Councilmember Kelly Jennings.
Thank you very much. Well said, everyone. Thank you for your comments. So to spin off on the inspiring, I attended a youth committee meeting, and our youth are absolutely incredible. I am so pleased. They have so many ideas. Even with the pandemic, it hasn't really stopped them and their ideas. So they have several virtual events planned coming up. They've also launched a Wellness Wednesday workshop for 7th to 12th graders about being mindful and eliminating stress and how to manage stress. So they already had a workshop on February 24th. Their second workshop is March 3rd through once a month until May. So check out their Instagram. It's really inspiring and hopeful. They have information about environmental awareness, mindfulness, and very interesting topics. So check them out. They're really very inspiring, and it's wonderful to see our youth be so involved in our community. I love that. Our traffic and transportation meeting went well. We had a couple new members join the committee, which was fantastic to have. And I think I'm getting this right, Jackie, but all of our street lights are being upgraded with LED lights. So you'll notice that everything's a little bit brighter is that correct?
Yes, that's very close to right. It's
Okay.
in the Edison area,
Okay.
which is sort of in the southwestern part of the city.
Wonderful.
The other areas will be lagging with the SDG&E, but the Edison part will be, yes.
Great.
And we've received a lot of very positive feedback from the community so far about it.
It makes a big difference. So thank you for that. I appreciate that. And then attended a couple Laguna Niguel Chamber, the Government Affairs Committee, and Community Relations meeting that was presented by Lucy Dunn with the Orange County Business Council. So she addressed reopening sooner and safer, surviving the pandemic and beyond. It was a really informative presentation, and I always appreciate her insight. And then the Chamber also hosted a breakfast honoring our community nonprofit leaders from Alzheimer's Orange County, AYSO, Care Possible, Family Assistance Ministry, South County Outreach, and our very own Ron Rivera. So it was really fun to honor our wonderful leaders who do so much in our community. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to go over two specific meetings out of so many meetings that I've attended. Per my request from Southern California Edison, I had a meeting with the representatives with regard to the nuclear power plant in northern San Diego County, and in reference to, as everybody knows, the nuclear power plant, it's been quite a few years that has been decommissioned, and I wanted them to go through specifics of how they are going to be hauling those residuals from northern San Diego County to other places. And the information that I received from them was that, as you may know, Senator Harry Reid, when he was representative from the state of Nevada, he changed the ruling that any kind of nuclear power plant waste has to be shipped to other places except his home state of Nevada. And they told me that via truck and trains, they are going to be transporting the residuals to the states of Texas, New Mexico, and Utah. And then later on, the U.S. Department of Navy is going to take over for the remaining fuel cells that is going to be buried in that portion near the coast for the next 100 years. And the reason for my request was that I'm thinking of the future generation, the future and the current residents of our city, along with South County cities, that we are going to be living in a safe place. So based on what I had mentioned, I got the promise from them that they are going to be coming to our city council chambers and make a formal presentation to us once everything gets safer, which I do see it based on what I heard on the news this afternoon before coming to this city council meeting, that Biden administration is promising that by the end of month of May, every adult in the U.S. would be able to get vaccinated. And that's a great news. And I'm praying and hoping for that to be not just a promise, but to be a reality. So I do see, the horizon, so we can open up the city council chambers and we can ask, other stakeholders and other entities to come and make a presentation to us with regard to the potential ramification of their activities. I attended Orange County Council of Governments meetings, and the takeaway is that, which I'm very pleased that I voted in favor of, a project that they are going to be pursuing to create a regional database program on ArcGIS, and specifically and explicitly all the 34 cities in Orange County would be benefiting from that database that they can share with the community development department of our city, so that we can save taxpayers money by not, having gone to transportation demand forecasting or any other projections there. So that's a good sign. The first phase is going to be done within the next couple of months, and then they're going to have a bigger phase, which would be subject to the approval of Southern California Association of Governments. We are not paying a penny. No cities in Orange County would be paying a penny, and everything would be done by the funding from Southern California Association of Governments. So with that, I just wanted to keep it short, to the point. Now I wanted to turn it over to our city manager, Tammy Letourneau.
Thank you, Mayor. I have some exciting news to share with all of you. So beginning on Monday, March 15th, we will be reopening City Hall to the public, and we will be opening our community center to the public. So we could not be more thrilled. For City Hall, all of our COVID precautions are going to be in place. Regular cleanings will be open to the public Monday through Thursday, 8 to 5. City Hall will be closed on Fridays with virtual services so we can do our COVID deep cleaning. And even though we are open and welcome the public Monday through Thursday, those virtual services will continue to be in place if people enjoy that. And we're happy to provide that as well. Regarding the community center, again, all COVID precautions and protocols in place. The reception desk is going to be open from 8 to 5 Monday through Thursday. Our aquatic center will be open from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday through Friday, and 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. on Saturday and Sunday. We're going to be offering tours of the brand new, beautiful community center through a reservation system. It's free. We just want to make sure we have to still limit the number of people in the buildings. So we want to make sure we're taking all those proper precautions. But anyone interested can make a reservation by calling our community center or going online and making a reservation there. And rental information, probably the most frequently asked question is, when can I rent and schedule rooms at the community center? And that will be available starting in August. We'll have information on our website very soon with all the details on how you can make a reservation. We won't be having indoor classes just yet. We need to wait just a little bit, but you'll see as the weeks go on, more programming of our outdoor spaces at Crown Valley Park, and then slowly we'll be introducing classes indoors. So we can't wait. We welcome everybody to come in and see the beautiful building. And on the note, taking off from what the mayor said about having people at council meetings, our council meetings are going to be back open to the public starting at the next meeting on March 16th. All the COVID precautions and protocols will be in place. We do need to limit the number of people in the room, and we will continue to do that, but we'll set up an overflow room if that's necessary. So very excited about that. And the other very exciting piece of news, the city of Laguna Niguel has won an outstanding urban and land development project award from the American Society of Civil Engineers for the Crown Valley Park and Community Center project tiers 1, 2, and 3. So we have not only is it opening, but it's an award-winning building now. So we're very happy about that. So that concludes my remarks this evening.
Very good. Thank you very much. We are now adjourned at 7:52. Thank you, Laguna Niguel. Stay safe and healthy.